Hello, and welcome to another episode of Spotlight on Unicorns. Today, we have a very special guest. This is Sima Umathay. Now, I met Sima through her husband, Ashwin, who I met many, many years ago at McAfee. And one of the things that I think is so amazing about Sima is that she's kind of like a walking sun. Like she walks into the room, it's all of a sudden it's brighter, it's warmer. She's a very welcoming, she hosted me when I was in India one time, drove me all over town despite having a toddler in tow. No, I think he was even younger. I don't even think he was a toddler age. He was a baby Shubham. But I always find that I walk away from our encounters a lot happier than when I walked into the encounter in the first place. So, but I want to thank Sima for joining today, and we just have some questions about career and different work and things like that. So, how did you choose? Like, what made you decide to go into program product management?
I started my career as an engineer, software engineer. So I was coding, and while I was coding, I realized that I just cannot stay put, basically. And as I was working with the teams, I was like, I want to solve the bigger problem, which is not under my purview, but I can do that. I want to bring the right people together and really make an impact at that level, which is also possible with program management. So then I made a transition to program management. And as I was doing program management, I realized that wow, I mean, I wanted more. I wanted to be the one who solved the why. Like why even there is a problem to begin with and how we can solve it. And that's how I transitioned into product management. The beauty has been that I've been able to pivot in all of these roles as the life evolved and as the demand was basically. So there has always been a trigger of wanting to do more, being more responsible, and take an ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're definitely not somebody to step in when you see that there's a problem to fix it. So, when just thinking about it, so, what did you want to be when you were little? Like when you were growing up, what was sort of your dream job, or what did you envision yourself doing?
Ironically, I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I say ironically because I ended up being an engineer. So coming from India, this is a place I come from. And at least the era that I grew up, it was like, obviously, you either become an engineer or a doctor. And if you don't get good enough grades, then maybe you become an accounting or commerce or finance would be like the third pillar. And the art would be like the last one, frankly, to be honest with you. Things have changed and I'm happy about that. But I always wanted to be a doctor because I loved science. I was very attuned with it. And I always thought that, with science, I can solve a problem which would have a broader impact.
Mm-hmm.
You would solve something which just helps everybody at every level. So that was a dream. And in hindsight, I think I made a better choice by being an engineer. Otherwise, I would have just been treating myself. I mean, that's what I say to my family is that, isn't that lucky? Isn't it in a way lucky that, I didn't turn out to be a doctor? Imagine.
Well, they always say doctors are the worst patients, right?
Yes.
So that's always the problem. So what today, like when you're thinking about the types of things that you're doing with your job, what is the hardest part of your job, do you think?
I think the hardest part of my job is not so much about the job, it's so much about me. Frankly, the reason I say it the other way is because I always, it's not perfection, but it's trying to get to the core of the problem. That just always entails a lot of thinking, a lot of work, a lot of actually doing a lot of understanding. I think that's the hardest part because then without realizing, I'm just expanding the scope of the work. Unknowingly just building on it. And frankly, not every time you get a team put together to address it. But still you have this desire that, yes, you have to get attention to it. So that is the hardest part, to draw the line saying that it is a problem. I'm not going to own it. I'm just going to kind of turn my back to it for now with the hope that, it gets solved somehow. That's the most difficult part. But frankly, and that's the reality, considering, where you are in the organization or how much you can do and what is your primary responsibility. So you have to kind of weigh in everything. And then make those tough choices, which I always have tough time making.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to walk away from something, especially when you kind of you know a way to fix it, but there's just not enough time to go back and fix it, right? So that is rough. What's one thing that you would like to have done differently about your career?
The one thing when I uh, reflect on it is being more assertive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the way I say it is, I mean, fortunately, I see myself as an extrovert, so there are situations where I'm able to articulate. But assertive is being different in the context of where I felt like I was doing my job, I was taking care of my life. I was doing both at the level I could do at the best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
But then the life challenges I had, I just translated that into an impact on my work when it wasn't there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like not being a self victim, but
Mm-hmm.
you put it in perspective, and you feel like, oh, because I have this going on in my life, maybe I'm not doing the best at my work. So
Mm-hmm.
undermining the self potential rather than being more assertive and kind of giving yourself some credit
Yeah, yeah.
that you're balancing both. So that's what unknowingly maybe I've compromised. Unknowingly maybe I have stepped down when there wasn't a need for it. So in a retrospective, I would tell myself that don't try to contextualize everything,
Mm-hmm.
and don't build a story from what you just believe in. Of course you have to, but at the end of the day, you have to play the game that
Mm-hmm.
everybody believes in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of times, it's also, I think sometimes it's about kind of the stories we tell ourselves too, right? Like, oh, I'm not in a good place to take something like this on, or maybe I don't have the right skills. And I think a lot of it is it's kind of socialized, like, and I've noticed that unfortunately, a lot of times women, like, we feel like we have to come with like a PhD dissertation in order to do something. Whereas, some other people just kind of jump right in and go for it. And so I think I think I've definitely suffered from that myself. I feel like, I have to be like, the top of my game in every single area in order to take something on. But, the times when I did jump in and just sort of started doing things, I was like, hey, wait a minute, this actually worked out really well. So I
Yeah, and
definitely,
it takes time and learning, and also for me it was also like don't try to reason it out.
Mhm,
Let the
mhm.
reason unfold. Proactively don't create unknown biases with yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, I have a kid, so maybe I'm not giving time, but in a hindsight I'm like, I still delivered,
yeah,
and much more better in a way, because I felt so responsible now.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
completely missed out on that aspect, and so those were the things I would go back and tell myself that, oh yeah, it would have been just fine.
Yeah. Well, and also too, it's like, okay, you have a kid, but so do other people.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly. Like, why try to reason it out for yourself
yeah,
and downsize, or
talk yourself out of it. Talk
exactly.
yourself out of it, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
when
definitely.
you're certainly doing all of it, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could change anything about your job, what would that be?
um I think what I would certainly change about my job is to I've always been strategic, frankly, as I was trying to grow and learn. And fortunately, I've had the right support system. Basically, one thing that I would change is say yes to bigger and better possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I hardly doubt, I hardly had a doubt of doing it, but I've always been very much cognizant of the fact of what it entails. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it goes back into like maybe an overthinking pattern, right?
Yeah.
Where you want to kind of like connect the dots much earlier, basically, even though I thrive in ambiguity, which is again, like, it's a weird combination. I mean, the space where things are spread across, you want to be there, but sometimes it just becomes so bigger. So with my job, I would say that like getting into product management, I could have done that much sooner in my career,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
frankly. And I always was like, okay, am I prepared for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so those things I would have certainly changed.
Yeah. So, what do you think you would tell your younger self if you could talk to your younger self and sort of describe where you're at right now? What would you tell her?
In fact, my younger self wanted to be a CEO of a company.
Mm. Mhm.
Yes, and somewhere down the road, I felt like I gave up on that dream.
Mm.
Again, it's a one thing of like, priorities in your life.
Yeah, yeah,
But then I always go back to like, yes, I can still do it.
yeah, yeah.
But when I was like starting out in my career, I had read a book Built to Last by Jim Collins, where he has a beautiful insight into how all the big companies are formed. And frankly, not to dilute it further, but every company goes through the same phases.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a cycle that they go through basically, and there are only few skill sets that just transforms in maturity level at the different cycle,
Hmm.
basically. And as you grow, you kind of fulfill those requirements. So yes, so I would have told myself is that hold on to it.
Yeah,
It might just happen. We
yeah,
never know.
yeah.
So basically, I wanted to be like at a level where I'm just accountable for a bigger things in life.
Hmm. 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 Well, you're CEO of the family right now. We know that, and those are transferable skills. you know,
Totally.
and it doesn't, being the CEO of something doesn't necessarily mean like the CEO of like 100,000 person company. It could be the
Exactly.
CEO of a great idea, right? And
Yeah.
so I got plenty of time to work on that. You can tell your younger self it's okay. Actually, I read one of those like little blurby things the other day, and they were saying it was all these different women that kind of came into their own like a lot later in life, right? Like I think Vera Wang, the famous designer, she didn't
Yes.
get her first. I mean, she didn't have her first show until she was well into her 40s, and so it's we there's all kinds of opportunities, and there's and they're out there. Just you never know when you're going to get an opportunity to
Yeah.
do something
And
like
no, I
that.
completely agree with you because, all along, I've been a part of, fortunately, like seed an idea.
Yeah.
So I had a book club way back when I was doing Toastmasters. I was so intrigued with the concept that, that book club is now completely established institution, and all the kids I had are now actually in a very good university with their undergrad degree. So I'm very proud of all of them. My first batch of those students. The second was we did a design conference in India.
Hmm.
So I was the part of the first crew that kind of had that up and running. So yes, I get take more pride in it, but I also want to tell my younger self and all the uh, kids, no matter what age category you would categorize them, is that life is a long runway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might feel like everything is like crumbling around you, but it's just at that instant. And
Yeah.
like we both know, I mean, like life is just so long. I mean,
Yeah.
one failure, one mistake is not going to hurt you. I
No.
mean, you learn from it, but it's not going to like be a showstopper.
Yeah, it's that old adage my dad used to tell me. It's like it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And
Absolutely.
and so, and there's different opportunities to stop and rest and get back up and keep going. So who would you say has been the most helpful person in terms of your career?
Uh, so frankly, at every phase of my career, I've been the lucky few where I've had the right mentor. I
Mm.
want to say just show up, but maybe it's, it goes both ways basically. But foundationally, my parents,
Hmm.
my father is a very visionary and a very strategic person, and my mother has been a homekeeper with a very strict planning and execution.
Hmm.
I mean, she was like, she would run everything basically just like you, very tight ship. So I
Mm.
got that inherently with me. And then my sister is my sounding board, and my brother is one who made me realize that people are different.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
You just embrace and accept them. So all
Mm.
this has been helpful. And like you said, it's a very transferable skill in your job because
Yeah.
you do not control who show up on your team. I mean, sometimes you get to pick and choose, and sometimes you are like, yes, this is a part of the crew, and you have to just get them together and just run with it, basically. And also, every time I have decided to make a pivot, I have had a very strong mentors.
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
fact, I had a mentor who actually helped me screen my email communication and provide feedback on those when I was preparing for a leadership role.
Hmm.
So it has been amazing. And frankly, we talk about the career and the work, but I believe the people outside of that zone help you a lot more because they are there when you doubt yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are there when you need that validation.
Hmm.
I mean, you are in one of those circles, frankly, you know, like who
Oh.
has always uplifted me, and you know, it's a sense of belief, and it gives a lot of comfort.
It
You
does.
know, and that's where, you know, I think the thinking should be. It's not just the mentor at work. Of course, you have a great team, but
Yeah.
all the people you meet along the way,
Yeah.
it's like you're building your whole camp.
Yeah. 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 You're building your
Yeah,
tribe. You're building your tribe. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that has been super helpful. And I always say that, you know, have a mentor for a very specific reason, and some of them just become like a very sounding board over
Yeah.
the time period. I mean, you may not have that kind of a relationship, it's just beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really
Yep.
important because, sometimes we're really good at, being able to, hype up other people, but, a lot of times you're not great at doing that yourself. And so it's really important to have that tribe of people that, believe in you and like, you take turns, right? Because
Yep.
things happen at different points in the life. And so, it's about being, being supportive of one another along the way. I mean, and that's really, that's kind of what being, human is all about, right? Is supporting one another.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
what do you think is your most important job of all the jobs you do? You have so many jobs. What's your most important?
Take care of myself.
Hmm.
uh, over I mean, and of course this came with a lot of you know, over the time period learning, is that at the end of the day, I have to believe in myself and be happy of the choices I make. I read this somewhere, I don't know, but the when you solve the problem is not when the problem was created. So things changes.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's a perspective I have when I'm like, forget, forgive, no regrets. Basically, try. Of course, there always be an underlying. You know, we always carry baggages, so that's a different side of being human, basically. But I think if I take care of myself, if I am happy, everything around me uh, reflects that.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and when I say that, it's not ignoring the problem; it's accepting it and still trying to find out like what can be done about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, and then if it's not in my control, that's fine. Just let it go. I think that's my main job is because if I do that, I've seen that, you know, I'm able to support my family members much better.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm also able to like think through clearly, to
yeah,
be
yeah,
honest. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so I think that's my most important job. And of course, in context of having son, or you know, being in a relationship and having extended family, those are all like they'll follow, and they have a
yeah.
place for it and time for it. But I also think my one of the biggest important job is I intentionally always try to be not try to, but I'm very grateful for all the people who have been with me.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, and like you said, right, for different phases, they come and go. And I believe in this miracle that if you really want somebody to show up, they will show up
Yeah,
in some shape or form. I mean, you just have to be open to the idea of, you know, having that person. And when I say person, you know, human being, they,
yeah.
yeah. So,
They'll
and they
come at
show
the
up.
right time. It comes at the right time. It's
Yep.
it's it's amazing how that happens. And sometimes
Yes.
it's hard. I think sometimes it's hard to see when there's like a person or a situation that's sort of dropped in front of you. Like you think, oh my God, this is the worst possible time to deal with this. But then it's something that you learn from, and you can, make things better for yourself or your family or whatever, right? And so I'm definitely trying to I'm definitely trying to sort of I'm trying in my own life to kind of look at things in a different perspective as well. So but instead of like, oh God, this is one more thing, or this is something, it's just, what does this mean? Like, why did the universe drop this in front of me right now? It's almost like playing one of those those multiplayer games, right? They just drop, what does this mean? What am I supposed to do with it? So
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, and I believe in this strongly when I'll tell you an incident. I was in India, I was on a job, and I got first time diagnosed basically with breast cancer. And I had one of my team member, a very smart fellow in his early 20s. The reason I mentioned that is he was very, very young, very smart. And, you know, I shared with him that this is what is happening. And you wouldn't believe, I mean, unfortunately, he had to go through a treatment himself. And being a smart and a new generation, I don't know if that's what it entails, but he had photos of how he had to go through that journey.
Oh,
So the point is, I was so prepared for it.
because he had already experienced it. He'd gone through it
Yes.
himself. Wow, that's amazing. So it was almost like a guide.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and he is so upbeat, so smart, and so energetic. And he shared all of this. So I was so prepared because I knew what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was there with me for that initial part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I was like, mind boggling. I mean, what are the chances? And again, this was the fellow who lives in the United States, who
Yeah.
had come to India
Yeah.
with his boss for a job in a company where I joined.
Yeah.
And we just worked for 8 to 9 months. And in that brief period,
It's amazing. I mean, like, what are the odds, right? What are the
exactly.
odds?
And he
Yeah.
actually did treatment in Stanford, where I'm currently getting treated. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God,
It's almost like, it happened, like, something happens and it's like it, and I think this all comes around too with like people that are very positive to begin with. It's almost like that positive energy, it pulls from other places, right? And you find yourself that there's guides there at the right time. That's an amazing story. I did not know that. That is an amazing story.
and we
Wow.
are in touch, and fingers crossed, he's doing great. He
Oh,
actually,
good.
and he's been so, and I learned a lot from him, basically, because he had a company here which he sold to Google
Mm.
a while back. He came back to India, and I was fortunate to work with him to keep up with, his all
Yeah.
jazziness and everything.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think somewhere, you have to have this open mindset and being able to share.
Yeah. 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 You never would have known if you hadn't shared and had that conversation, right? You probably never realized it. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, that is a great story. I love that story. So if you could have any tool built for you to make your job easier, what would that be? And it could be any one of the jobs, any of the many jobs that you have.
A tool which would remind me, or rather force me, I mean, I think the reminder doesn't work anymore,
Yeah.
force me to take a step back, self-reflect, and
Mm.
let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Being a very high energetic person, and like my mind is racing a lot with a lot of thoughts, basically. So it becomes extremely difficult, even with what's going on in my life, is to like take a step back,
Mm.
relax. In fact, my son would say this, which somebody would think is very negative, but he's like, you never have fun. Because for him, fun is like sit and watch TV, and I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, fun is to go to Barnes and Noble, go to public library, and just see a truckload of books and get like 50, 60, 100, the max you can check out, and just, bring. And for him, it's like, man, that's nerdy. And he had told me
Yeah.
strictly that don't make me a nerd like you. So you can imagine, like, so yeah, so I want a tool that would somehow, go in my brain and tell that this is the time, Seema,
Yeah. Yeah.
break. Like,
Yeah.
like step away, not from the just office work, but
Mm.
from the life itself. Because being somebody who feel so responsible, it trickles in every aspect of life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
making sure your kid has the right thing, you're doing everything you can, or your spouse has everything, and your in-laws have everything. And somewhere, like what I said, is like my job of taking care of myself just get lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's never
Yeah.
intentional, right? It's
No.
just a byproduct of just feeling that way. So yes, if there's a tool, like, that just like,
I think I know what the tool is. So I think that what you need, and I know a perfect place for it to go, is to have what they're calling a she shed. It's a separate place, and the garage is right outside there. You
yes.
can take over the garage. That could be Seema's she shed. Nobody else is allowed in there except for you, and you have like an alarm that goes off, and you have to go like every day and spend like half an hour, like twice a day or something like that, the morning and then the evening, right? And that's
Exactly.
your space, and you can decorate it how you want. You can, do whatever you want in that space, and it's just like your comfy space. It could be completely wall to wall with books. books
Yeah.
as far as you can see, like, all the books covered everywhere, and you can just go in there and it's like a beanbag chair or something, and like that's your space. So I think I'm gonna have to text Ashwin and let him know that Sima needs a she shed.
Oh, yes. And he will be like, she might have one. She just needs to be there.
Yeah, you need to actually go. You need to go.
But no, that's a very good idea. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that sounds it. And it wouldn't have any, like, there'd be no well, you'd have to have a power for a light, but like you can't plug anything in. Like there's a rule, like no mobile devices, no computers, no nothing. It's like beanbag chair, light and books, and that's it.
Books. Yep. No, very true, very true. And that's exactly what I do. Like, this is what I even on my team members, I tell them that, if you see me being cranky, it's just that I haven't read a good book.
There you go.
That's
They have an
and
incentive to find a new book.
exactly, and they just get a kick out of it because they're like, what?
So this is the last question, and this is my favorite question, and kind of the topic of this series that I put together. So what kind of unicorn do you think you are? What sort of magic do you feel like you have?
I'm blessed, to be honest, frankly. I'm super blessed. The magic I have is that even though it feels like I don't, I control my destiny in a real way, where life has offered me those choices. And I chose the hardest path. So I think that's the magic I have right now, that in hindsight, it might feel like, oh my God, what's going on? But to be very transparent, I get to choose. Yeah. So I think that's the magic I have. And being human, I'm able to, leave behind legacy, like think about it, be intentional about it. And I really want to do that. And that's also one of the reasons, I feel like education and kids, I think at a very young age, basically, and education so that they understand why and what. I mean, do the right thing or wrong thing is the outcome and the next step. But I think I have that magic of being that influencer in the life of the kid. They see somebody who has gone through different things, but always had made the choices. Like, it's my choice.
Yeah.
And because, and frankly, fortunately, I've been surrounded by people who let me think that way. It's always is like you control, but at the end of the day, we live in a society, and there are rules for a reason and all of it. But apart from all of that, the magic I have is to make those choices and to a larger extent, influence and make many people happy in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, the moment that I met you, I mean, you just jump up and make sure that everybody's comfortable and everybody feels wanted and included. And like I said, you're like just the ball of sunshine that moves from place to place and just makes everybody's day like warmer, more connected, and just, very magical. So that's what I see. And I have many memories of you over the years, just always going out of your way, trying to make sure that people are comfortable, that that they're valued. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for being one of my unicorns. And so I think that's it for today.
Thank you.
You can go and figure out what Shubham's watching on television, and then I'm going to go and make sure to send a text message to Ashwin to get started on that she shed for you. I think he can get it before the end of the year. I'll give him a date, the due date for it. The release date of Sima's she shed is January 1st, 2024. Right? Oh my God. So
yeah, we're already there. And actually, you have a checkpoint because and we are coming for the Bad Animal Zoo party. So thanks for the invite. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Very cool. That is going to be exciting. I'm so happy that we've got everybody's excited about seeing everybody else again. So it's going to be great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We look forward to that.
So I'll check in with him and make sure that he's on track for that January 1st release date. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you
so much. I'm so happy to be
you.
part of this. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.